Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing a review of the Harlan Estate 2016, the Maiden. Many of my viewers and subscribers will know that in my community page during the holidays, I said that I was going to drink this wine during the New Year celebration. Unfortunately, I had a little bit of a cold and had a little bit of cough, so I kind of delayed that. So this is kind of a delayed review that I should have done during the New Year's season. The Harlan Estate story is a really good one. It was started in 1984 by Bill Harlan, and he wanted to create a first growth wine for California. I want to read you a quote which I think is really good. He says, "If we can enrich people's lives and just maybe inspire them to do something beyond what they might otherwise have done, that brings us great satisfaction. Our purpose is to help our patrons to have an even more enjoyable and healthy life." I really like that idea that, not just drinking wine for the sake of drinking wine. I love the idea he's trying to inspire drinkers to reach for more. So Harlan Estate sits on the western hills of Oakville. It's about 240 acres in total area, of which only about 40 acres is planted with vines. The location of the winery is ideal. It's right above Martha's Vineyards, which is Heights Cellars, and the Kalon Vineyard, which is I've done other previous videos about. So a really great place to grow grapes, probably the best spot in Napa Valley. The vineyard is planted 70% Cabernet Sauvignon, 20% Merlot, 8% Cabernet Franc, and 2% Petit Verdot. With the Maiden, the name for that is because it's kind of a reflection of its big sister, the Harlan Estate wine, so then this is called the Maiden. The first commercial vintage of Harlan Estate was released in 1996, but that was the 1990 vintage. And at that time, it was $65 a bottle, which was expensive at that time, but of course now is not even close to what it's worth. The Maiden debuted in around 1995, so it must have been released a couple of years after the Harlan Estate. The wine spends about 24 to 26 months in a mix of new and used French oak barrels, and it is bottled unfined and also unfiltered. In 2021, Bill turned over the reins of the winery to his son, Bill Harlan, who has been appointed CEO of Harlan Estates. And if you get the opportunity to drink Harlan, which I consider a first growth in the Napa region, probably even more so than, let's say, Opus or Dominus One, this is a really, really flagship type wine. I would take that opportunity because it's really important to know these standards. In my opinion, and people may disagree with this, but if you have the means, if you need to drink the first growth wines to really understand Bordeaux. Now, of course, it depends on your means, and I'm not saying you have to drink that, but if you have the means, you should drink that. And likewise, if you have the means to be able to drink Harlan, you should do that because that's the standard. And it's really important to understand the standard, and then you can understand why people are so loved with Bordeaux wines or Napa wines. That's what I find a lot in terms of the entry level or beginner people. They buy a really nice bottle of wine and they say, well, I don't get it, right? I don't actually understand this wine. And part of the reason is that they have been probably drinking for their whole lives kind of more value wines and thinking that's the standard. So if you compare it, then this wine is different, and it may not be good or bad, it's just different. And so your standard is set in a different manner. And I've repeated this story a number of times on this channel just as an example. In a lot of the Chinese restaurant here, we have kind of a vegetable soup which we call borscht. So I've been eating that for all my life in these Hong Kong style cafes. They always have cream soup or borscht. And I've always had borscht, and I love borscht. So when we went to Russia, I was so excited. It's like, I love borscht. Boy, when I go to Russia, I'm gonna go. So we went to Russia, and the borscht was didn't have as much meat in it. It had more like purple vegetables, and we're like, that's not borscht. So I think those people thought we were nuts. What are you talking about, Trophy? We're in Russia, of course it's borscht. What we were used to, which was the Hong Kong style borscht, was not really the borscht. And that's the example I'm making. Like, you know, if all your life you're drinking value, Napa Valley, you're thinking that's the standard. That's not the standard. The standard is this wine. So that's why I'm saying, you know, if you can work backwards, and you can taste this wine and then make this the standard and then realize kind of what everyone else is trying to copy, instead of thinking a value wine in terms of a Valley Napa or Valley Bordeaux is the standard. That's not. The standard in Bordeaux is going to be the first growth wines, and it's going to be Petrus. And again, it's not for everyone, and not everyone has that means, but if you have those means, that's why I'm saying, if you have the opportunity, go and taste it, and that can kind of recalibrate why things are so expensive, and I think makes it more easier to understand why certain wines are so expensive. So let's taste this wine. I'll let you know that I've had it open now for 2 days. I've had it with a number of things. Out of the bottle, it's pretty heavy. Of course, if I was normally drinking this, I would probably decant for a good couple of hours. It's not going to over decant. It's actually in 2016, a little young probably. You could probably age this a little bit younger. As you can see for the color, it's a beautiful crimson red, a really, really nice color. So let's taste and smell the wine. So on the aroma, now this is after 2 days of aeration, it's still very fragrant. You can imagine how fragrant and how it came out when it first came out of the bottle. When it first came out of the bottle, it was all black fruit, oak, vanilla, but not in an unbalanced way, very intense. There's no missing it, and it's quite easy to distinguish. Even now, you have a little bit of mintiness, but you have that core black fruit, cassis, black plums, blackberries, and then that oak influence on it. Very clear, distinct, very aromatic. On the taste of this wine, that's why it's so important, I think, to drink this wine. This is what they mean by the California fruit. So it's so intensely fruit. It's almost to a point where it's over extracted. So this is, first of all, a very tannic wine. And it's also a very high alcohol content wine. It's 14.8. You don't taste that at all. The only thing that goes through your mind when you sip this wine is fruit. Not in a bad way. This is how intense the fruit is, that you don't even feel the 14.8% alcohol. You don't feel the high tannins at all. So the fruit just takes over, and it's all your dark fruits: cassis, blackberry, black plums, black cherries, and then you get on the aftertaste a little bit of tobacco, a little bit of earthiness, oak influences, licorice. So it's really, and I think the other thing is it's nice and smooth, it's balanced, and it's got that great mid palate. It doesn't dip at all. Some people argue that their winery actually sits on the To Kalon site. The reason why there's some discrepancy, because their lands was not, even though it technically is part of the To Kalon site, it was never planted with grapes until Bill Harlan got there. So technically it is To Kalon, but it's not To Kalon grapes as we know it, because the To Kalon vineyard was just below it. But again, all that fruit comes through this wine. It's very intense, and if you are into Napa wines, this is the standard. Even if you're not into Napa wines, I think you'll really enjoy this wine because it's so powerful, and it's smooth. It's very balanced. It's a really nice drinking wine. It's surprising because a lot of wines that are high tannin, I get really red, and I get kind of, my heart palpitations go up high and it doesn't make me feel that comfortable. This wine actually makes me feel very comfortable, and I think it's because the balance is so good on this wine. So here's the cork. It says the Maiden 2016. There is some red wax on the top of it. This is the label, the Maiden. Very simple design, nothing on the back, not much on the back. And then here is the wine itself. Look at the color. So this is an 8-year-old wine, but look at the exceptional color of this wine. Beautiful, very viscous. I think it's got a lot of years left in this wine, easily another 10 years. And again, I don't think you can over-air this wine. You can pop this into a decanter for 4 or 8 hours. It's not going to really dissipate the aromas or the taste. It's a very strong wine, very balanced. It is really hedonistic in the American cab style. And this is prototypical American cab. This is exactly what the producers, when you talk about Camus, Harlan, all of them started off with this type of idea to show off the fruit. And that's what this is doing. It's showing off the fruit. And it's a different type of taste profile than Australian wines, where it's a Shiraz and it's fruit forward also, but that is way more jammy. This is really fresh, got some acidity and really bursting. It's kind of like just biting on fruits, biting on blackberries or blueberries. That gush of fruit, that's what this wine tastes like, and that's what they wanted with American Cab. What I find with some of the more value Napa cabs is they try to imitate this, and they've got the high, strong alcohol, they've got the tannins, but there's no balance, and the fruit content isn't as high. So with those wines, once I smell it, I smell alcohol right away. Ooh, that's alcohol. This wine is the same or more alcoholic than most Napa cab wines, but you don't smell alcohol at all. You just smell fruit, and you smell the loveliness of oak, but not over oaked. A lot of wines just over oak, over alkalize their wines, and they don't have this intensity. They just don't have that intensity of fruit to be able to cover the other wines. And this is the key component to Napa Cab, is the fruit forward. When we talk about fruit forward, that means fruit intense. That means it covers up the alcohol, it covers up the tannins. That's all you taste. Honestly, when you taste this wine, all you taste is fruit. And it's kind of a lovely feeling. It's a little bit intense from my perspective. Like if I was drinking this the whole night, it kind of would bother me because it's so fruity. But it is, I acknowledge, some people really like this taste. And you know, a glass of 2 of this wine, I'd love this. Really well made, really think this is a great wine. I'm going to give it 94 points. I think a lot of people will rate this higher than me because, again, that's not my personal preference, this type of style. But I acknowledge it is a really, really well-made wine. So I think a lot of people will rate this 97, 98 points. But from my perspective, it's between 94 and 95, somewhere around there. I would have rated it 5 points, and then I started to drink more of it, and it just got to me. It's kind of, wow, this is really fruit forward. And again, it's just a personal preference. So between 94 and 95 points, that's kind of my rating on this wine. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy drinking.